The night my fiancée introduced two strangers as her parents, I smiled, shook their hands, and let her believe the lie had worked. She was glowing across the table, her arm hooked through a silver-haired executive she called Dad, while his elegant wife played Mom beside him. Everyone laughed, ordered wine, and I thought about the real father I had met 3 weeks earlier, a retired postal worker who had dropped a garden hose when I said his daughter's name. That was the moment I understood something ugly. Claire had not lost her family. She had erased them because they were not impressive enough for the life she wanted to sell. My name is Adrian Marco, Ari to people who know me. I was 35, running a commercial real estate firm in Metro Detroit, and for 14 months I thought Claire Mercer was the woman I would marry. My family is Greek-American, loud, loyal, and close. My father, Dmitri, built our company from nothing. My mother, Katerina, treats Sunday dinner like a sacred appointment. My uncle Leon arrives without warning and asks questions nobody else is brave enough to ask. So when Claire came into our lives, she did not just date me. She entered the whole Marco machine. She came to Sunday dinners by the 2nd month. By the 4th, she knew not to sit in Uncle Leon's chair. She laughed at his terrible jokes and asked my mother for recipes. I proposed on the rooftop of the Shinola Hotel in downtown Detroit. She said yes before I finished the sentence. My mother cried. My father said, "Good. Now bring her every Sunday so your mother can feed her properly." The only missing piece was Claire's family. 6 weeks after we started dating, she told me her parents were toxic. We were in her midtown apartment, takeout on the coffee table, a show playing that neither of us watched. "My parents and I don't have a relationship," she said quietly. "They were controlling. Critical. My father especially. I had to cut contact to become my own person." I believed her. She sounded tired, like someone opening a scar she preferred to keep covered. "They won't be at the wedding," she added. "I need you to be okay with that." I said I was. But my family does not understand blank spaces. We do not marry someone without knowing where they came from, who raised them. By month 11 of our engagement, the silence around Claire's parents had become loud. It finally broke during a Sunday dinner in Grosse Pointe. My mother had made pasticcio, the kind that takes all Saturday. Everyone was eating when Uncle Leon put down his fork. "Claire, sweetheart," he said. "Where are your people?" The room froze. Claire's smile held, but her eyes sharpened. "My parents and I aren't in contact. I've mentioned that." "I know," Leon said. "I'm asking because you're marrying into our family, and nobody has met one person from yours." "Leon," my father warned. But the question stayed. Later, in the kitchen, my father poured a small glass of wine. "She is a good woman," he said. "She is. I believe you. I even believe her." He set the glass down. "But Ari, people still exist somewhere. They have addresses. I'm not asking you to fix her family. I'm asking you to know what you're walking into." That stayed with me. I was not suspicious yet. My fear was almost stupidly innocent. Claire was polished, corporate, surrounded by people with expensive degrees and better shoes than mine. I worried that if her parents ever met me, they might decide I was too loud, too ethnic, too much like my uncle. I thought I was driving toward judgment. Instead, I found the truth. The discovery came through paperwork. Claire had moved into a downtown condo my firm managed, and because we were weeks from the wedding, our legal team needed her ID for the master lease. On the document, her legal name was not Claire Mercer, the name she used everywhere. It was Claire Whitman. Out of curiosity, I ran a public property search. That led to an old record, a dormant profile, and an address on Maple Avenue in Saginaw, Michigan. The next Saturday, I told Claire I had a property walk-through. Then I drove north on I-75, rehearsing polite introductions and preparing to be disliked. The house was nothing like I imagined. A neat ranch home. Wind chimes. Flower beds. A man in a Detroit Tigers t-shirt watering the yard. I sat in the car for 5 minutes, confused by how ordinary it all was. Then I got out and walked up the driveway. The man noticed me and squinted. "Can I help you?" I took a breath. "Sir, my name is Adrian Marco. I'm engaged to your daughter, Claire." Harold Whitman dropped the hose. Dropped it. Water spread across the driveway while his face broke in a way I will never forget. Not with anger. With relief so deep it looked painful. "Linda!" he called, voice cracking. "Linda, come outside." Inside that modest house, everything Claire had told me began to fall apart. There were photos everywhere. Claire at birthdays. Claire at prom. Claire between Harold and Linda at her college graduation, both parents beaming like they had won the lottery. These were not monsters. These were people who missed their daughter. Over coffee and cookies, Linda set out with shaking hands. They told me the story. Harold had worked 31 years for the Postal Service. Linda had been a school secretary. They paid Claire's way through the University of Michigan. Then, after she moved to Detroit, she began changing. Calls shortened. Visits stopped. Online, she used her middle name, Mercer, and posted pictures with people they did not know. Then came the wedding. Claire asked them for $100,000. Harold and Linda offered $15,000, everything they could give without hurting retirement. Claire's answer was, "If you can't invest in my future, you're not part of it." She blocked them that night. Linda slid a sealed envelope across the table. A birthday card, returned unopened. Across the front was a red stamp, returned to sender. I stared at it. Then my phone buzzed. It was Claire. "Babe, great news." I reached out to my parents. "They finally apologized and want to meet you for lunch tomorrow. I'm so excited for you to finally meet them." I turned the screen toward Harold and Linda. They read it in silence. Claire was not simply hiding her real parents. She had found replacements. I did not confront her that night. My father had taught me, let them finish the lie. A half-told lie becomes an argument. A finished lie becomes a confession. So I went home, sat beside Claire while she browsed venue photos, and acted normal. Over the next few days I listened. She kept mentioning her boss, Edward Harlan, and his wife, Caroline. Little references, dropped like breadcrumbs. Edward thought highly of her. Caroline had wonderful taste. They had been like family to her. I looked them up. Edward Harlan was a senior vice president at Claire's wealth management firm. Caroline appeared in society photos beside him. They were wealthy, respected, exactly the kind of people Claire wanted my family to see beside her. The lunch was at the Lark in West Bloomfield. Claire arrived between them, glowing. "Ari," she said, warm and triumphant. "This is my dad, Edward, and my mom, Caroline." I shook their hands. For 20 minutes, I watched all three of them perform. Edward was smooth. Caroline was graceful but careful, tracking Claire's invented memories half a beat too slowly. Claire laughed too brightly, touched Caroline's arm too often, and looked at me as if she had finally solved the problem of her past. I smiled through lunch. Then I leaned forward. "My family is traditional," I said. "Before the wedding, my parents would like to host a proper engagement dinner. Just family, a good meal, a toast. They want to welcome the people who matter to Claire." Edward glanced at Caroline. Then he nodded. "We'd be honored." Claire squeezed my hand under the table so hard it hurt. She thought she had won. She had walked into the trap smiling. The next week, I drove back to Saginaw and told Harold and Linda everything. Linda's hands trembled around her mug. "We don't want to make a scene," she said. "I'm not asking you to," I told her. "But my mother is preparing to welcome Claire's parents into our family. She deserves to know who they are. And after 2 years of returned birthday cards, you deserve to be in that room. Harold covered Linda's hand with his. What time should we be there? My father arranged the private dining room at Pegasus Taverna in downtown Detroit. My mother handled the menu. Uncle Leon wanted to say something at the door, and I had to forbid him. Not one word, I told him. Not until I stand up. He glared. Fine. But I get extra tyropida. Saturday came. Claire spent 3 hours getting ready. She asked about earrings, then shoes. Both times I told her she looked beautiful. That was never the problem. She left early for the restaurant. Once the door closed, I called Harold. You ready? I asked. We've been ready for 2 years, he said. At Pegasus, the room was warm, white linen, low candles, the smell of lemon and garlic in the air. My mother adjusted the flowers. My father gave me one calm nod. Uncle Leon sat with a plate of tyropida, reminding me of our deal. Claire arrived at 7 with Edward and Caroline. She moved through the room like she owned the life she had invented. She kissed my mother, laughed with my cousins, stood beside Edward and Caroline as if they belonged there. This is perfect, she whispered to me. This is everything I wanted. I know, I said. That's why I did it. She heard love. I meant truth. Dinner began. The food came out. The wine flowed. Edward charmed my father. Claire glowed brighter with every minute. At 7:48, I took my phone from my pocket and sent Harold one word. Now. Then I stood and tapped my knife against my glass. The room quieted. I want to thank everyone for being here, I said. In my family, a dinner like this is not just a meal. It is a declaration. It says these people are real. These people matter. Claire smiled up at me, expecting a toast. My father taught me that the people you bring to the table tell everyone exactly who you are, I continued. So tonight, I want to make sure we have the right people at this table. The manager opened the side door. Harold and Linda Whitman walked in. Harold wore a navy blazer that looked carefully pressed and slightly old. Linda wore a burgundy dress, her purse clutched in both hands, her chin lifted with courage. Claire saw them. The color drained from her face so completely that she looked like a photograph left in the sun. Her wineglass tilted in her hand. I steadied it and placed it on the table. Ari, she whispered. I went to Saginaw, I said quietly. 3 weeks ago. I thought maybe I could fix this for you. I thought I could give you your family back as a wedding gift. I found your father watering flowers in a Detroit Tigers shirt. He dropped the hose when I said your name. I sat in your parents' kitchen. I saw your school photos. I held the birthday card you mailed back unopened. Claire opened her mouth. You don't understand, I understand enough, I said. Your father worked 31 years for the Postal Service. Your mother worked in a school office. They paid for your education. They offered you $15,000 for the wedding because that was what they could give without hurting themselves. And you erased them because they did not look expensive enough beside you. I turned to Edward and Caroline. I know what she told you. She said my family was judgmental. She said her parents were gone, and she needed honorary parents to help her survive a traditional Greek wedding. She used your kindness and status to fill 2 chairs that were never empty. Caroline looked from Claire to Linda, her face changing from confusion to shame. Edward folded his napkin and set it on the table without a word. I faced Claire one last time. I grew up watching my father treat people like they mattered. The man parking the car. The woman cleaning the office. The retired postal worker in Saginaw who gave everything he could and was told it was not enough. I reached into my jacket and took out the ring. That is the measure I was raised with. Not money. Not polish. Not a last name you borrowed because yours embarrassed you. I placed the ring on the white tablecloth in front of her. By that measure, I don't know who you are. Then I picked up the floral centerpiece and walked to Linda. She was trying not to cry. I could see it in her tiny, careful breaths. I held the flowers out. She looked at them, then at me. And when she took them, she broke. Quietly. Harold wrapped his arm around her, then reached his free hand toward me. His grip said what his voice could not. My father stepped beside me. I'm Dmitri Marko, he said to Harold. I should have met you long ago. I'm sorry. Harold swallowed. Thank you for raising a man like that. My father looked at me then, prouder than I had ever seen him. My mother did not shake Linda's hand. She pulled her into a full embrace, flowers and all. We walked out together. My mother linked arms with Linda. My father walked beside Harold. Uncle Leon held the door, silent for once. I looked back only once. Claire sat alone at the center of the table in her perfect dress, the ring in front of her, the centerpiece gone. Edward and Caroline were already leaving. Her curated world sat around her, stunned, because there were no more roles to play. Outside, the September air felt clean. My father put a hand on the back of my neck. Your grandfather would have done the same thing, he said. Across the sidewalk, Harold stood with Linda tucked under his arm, white flowers in her hands, both of them breathing like people who had just been handed back something they thought was gone forever. That night, I lost a fiancé. But I helped two parents become visible again. And some truths are worth every table they destroy.